Are you ready to grow your small business and bring your income to the next level to stop living from paycheck to paycheck? Well, this isn't the right video. We're not going to do any of that. We're going to make mead. Mead is honey wine, okay? This is a ton of honey that my place of work provided to me. I had to pay for it, but they still gave it to me. Mead is honey wine. As I say, it's fermented honey wine. You add honey to a glass container like this. This is your fermenter. And you add water to bring it up to a gallon. You let that ferment, and what you're left with is one of the most ancient alcoholic beverages in the world, mead. In this video, I'm going to teach you a simple, easy, and cheap recipe to create a nice tasting mead. Step 1, sanitize your equipment, okay? To do that, you buy Star San Sanitizer. There's a link in the description under the video. You can get a little 4-ounce thing. You use like a teeny little bit, like a 1/4 of an ounce, put it in a gallon of water, dunk all your equipment in, leave it out to dry. Then when that's all done, it's sanitized. The thing you want to do is kill any germs or bacteria or microorganisms that might compete with your yeast. Yeast is the thing you want to thrive, the microorganism you want to thrive. You want everything else to die. To do that, you sanitize. I did that. Step 2 is to weigh out the right amount of honey, okay? Here is what we call a food scale in the business. Turn it on, get a container, okay? We're gonna be using 3 pounds of honey. Now, honey also comes in a wide variety of types. The differentiating factor between, say, wildflower honey, clover honey, raspberry honey, buckwheat honey, is where the bees got their nectar from when they made that honey. Because I didn't know if you know that. Honey comes from bees. We're going with wildflower honey because this is going to taste the most like just traditional honey. Okay, you branch into things like raspberry honey, it's going to taste like raspberries. In order to make a traditional mead that's simple to create, you want a neutral honey flavor component. We're going to add other things for other flavors, but it's the easiest one to work with. If you want to branch into raspberry, into buckwheat, things like that, that's totally fine, but that's going to be more complex, just like in cooking. What you want to do with your food scale is weigh out 3 pounds. Damn it. It came out to 2 pounds and 15.9 ounces. So this, we're out, we're done. I'm not doing any of this. Just kidding. The next step is to add your honey into your fermenter, okay? These are 1 gallon glass carboys. Once again, I have a link in the description underneath this video to buy these. They're really cheap, very useful to get a gallon batch. Okay, funnel, also linked to it in the description. Just click those links and buy whatever you want on Amazon. Even if you click that link and then you buy something else completely unrelated to this, I still get a teeny tiny commission. It's really cool. So if you want to support me in my channel, use those links. Now, to take care of the honey in here and these things that I want to get in here, we're going to go on to the next step, which is to add 1 cup of black tea, which I made from 2 tea bags that I let seep in here, okay? The reason we're adding black tea to this mix is because black tea is high in what us people call tannins. I mean, that is what it's called, it's tannins. It's a phenolic compound that is bitter. That's its key trait. So if you bite into a wet black tea bag, it's super, super bitter and it dries out your mouth. That's a lot of tannin. Tannin in the right amount in wine or mead adds some complexity to your beverage. It adds some mouthfeel, like literally makes it feel like more in your mouth, so it's not as watery, not as thin, has a nice bite to it. That's what we're going for, okay? So I am gonna do a pro gamer move and put it into here, mix it around so I can get that honey in here because I want it. Okay, in it goes. The next thing we're going to do here is add more water to it because mead is honey plus water fermented. The water I'm going to use today is Arrowhead water. A, because it's non-chlorinated. You want water that's chlorine free. That'll screw up what goes on in here with the yeast. And B, I really like Arrowhead water. Okay, the key and the one piece of advice when choosing what source of water to use to make mead is you just want to like the way the water tastes. If it tastes minerally and gross, it's going to influence and impact your mead. This is common sense. So if your tap water tastes good and it's chlorine free, use that. I just really like Arrowhead water and it's cheap, so I buy it. And that's what I'm going to use for this. You can do whatever you want. It's a free country. Now we're gonna fill it to halfway. And there's an important reason to only do it to halfway first. Let me do it and then I'll explain it. The reason we go to halfway is because now what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this little bung in here, into the opening, cover up that hole, and we're gonna shake it up, okay? We're gonna shake it as hard as we can. A, to mix in the honey with the water, dissolve it, that's the right word. And B, is we're oxygenating the must. We're adding oxygen to the must. Must is the word for mead before it's fermented, right? So just the water and the honey mixed together, it's must. So you wanna add oxygen into your fermentation, in your must, because oxygen helps your yeast ferment well and healthy without producing any off odors like hydrogen sulfide. Hydrogen sulfide smells like rotten eggs. You don't want that in your fermentation. So take this step, oxygenate it. Just do it. Okay. We're gonna add 2 things to this to add my signature touch. Okay, the first thing is more standard. We're gonna add Valencia orange peel, all right? If you've got a fresh orange and an orange zester, zest up like, I don't know, 5 grams worth and put it in, like a little quarter size. Otherwise, get orange peel. I have a link for this in the description too. We're gonna be using a teaspoon of it. The reason we're adding orange peel is to add some orange flavor. Now, why do we not add a whole orange? I'm so glad you asked. I've done that before. The first mead I made was called Joe's Ancient Orange Mead. It's a really well-known recipe online, circulated for like the last 10 years, I think. The key part of it is that you add a whole orange. You just chop up an entire orange, rind, pith, juice, meat, and all, and you put it in here. I did that. Now that comes out super, super bitter because the pith, the white stuff in an orange, is really bitter. Orange zest allows you to imbue your fermentation, your mead, with orange flavor without putting that pith in there to get those bitter notes. So we're gonna get a teaspoon of it and put it in. Now the next thing we're gonna do makes this not just a traditional mead, but Miles's traditional mead. Because if you YouTube search how to make mead videos, you're going to find videos that propose very similar recipes to this. To justify my existence and the contribution of another video, I'm gonna use 1 different ingredient. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, that's not the only thing that's different about this. You're also watching for me and my humor and my style of explanation. But what I'm gonna do uniquely is I'm gonna add a teaspoon of chamomile. Okay, chamomile is a type of tea. It is a ground up herb, is what I was trying to say. It's a ground up herb, obviously, it's just tea. We're gonna be using a teaspoon of chamomile tea. Let me just read you the flavor descriptions here, and you tell me if this isn't the perfect addition. With its mellow, delicate, and slightly floral notes, chamomile, or chamomile, offers an understated flavor that can induce tranquility in an instant. God, fuck the Buddha, am I right? Don't go to the path of enlightenment for many eons of lifetimes. It also blends beautifully with other flavors like citrus, ding, 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 mint, and even mango, making it soothing and refreshing at the same time. That's what I'm going for. So, 1 teaspoon of chamomile. If you don't have, I bought this at a home brew supply store, so that's why it has this nice little packaging. Just get a chamomile tea bag, rip it open, pour its contents in. Now, you might be asking, we already added black tea. Why so much tea? The black tea was for the tannins, not for the flavor of black tea. We're adding this chamomile for the flavor. Okay. Okay. The last addition, besides the yeast, is yeast nutrient. Yay! Yeast nutrient! Oh my god. Yeast nutrient is a variety of things. Primarily nitrogen. That's what it contributes to a fermentation. Yeast like nitrogen because it allows them to replicate in bud to full capacity so that they can consume all the sugar. If you have a liquid, whatever, whether wine or mead, deficient in nitrogen, you risk your yeast not being able to ferment it out completely, leaving behind too much sugar and not enough alcohol. We're not gonna risk that. We're gonna add the yeast nutrient. Once again, there's a link in the description. Click it, buy anything. Click it and buy all your Christmas gifts. It doesn't matter to me. But click those links. 1 teaspoon. Once again, it's easy to remember. 1 teaspoon orange peel, 1 teaspoon chamomile, 1 teaspoon yeast nutrient. Come on, guys, it's easy. Now, fill up the rest of the fermenter with water. My funnel is in the sink because I forgot I would need it again. So I'm just gonna pour it in carefully. Now, how far up here do you fill it? Basically, my rule of thumb is there's a little raised 1 gallon print. Raised, you know what I'm saying? You can feel it say 1 gallon. You fill it to just above that line around here, okay? Because you want to get the most mead that you can. I get it. But you also don't want to overfill, because if you filled it all the way to the neck here, you're gonna risk blowing off the airlock, which we're gonna put a bung and an airlock in here. And typically fermentations are a little rough and they're foamy and they create stuff and they foam up. If there's not enough space for that to happen, they will just blow off the airlock and it'll get everywhere. It'll ruin your entire life. Don't risk that. Swirl it around a little bit, mix it up. Okay, we are almost there, almost done. Last thing I'm gonna do is something that you don't at home need to do, but if you decide to go into the hobby of home winemaking, it may be worthwhile to do this next step and buy the equipment for it. I'm going to take a hydrometer reading. Okay, those are big words. While it is a scientific piece of equipment and it may seem intimidating, it's really not. It's a really very simple concept. All the hydrometer does and allows us to do is measure how much sugar is in your must prior to fermentation. Why that's important is that alcohol happens when yeast consumes sugar. So if you know how much sugar is in your must to begin with and how much sugar is left when the fermentation is done, that difference, that delta, is how much alcohol you have. And you can use those numbers to calculate the ABV of your wine, or mead in this case. And that's all we're doing. If you do this step, it's fine. You can assume that you're going to get about a 13% alcohol by volume beverage. If you want to know the specifics and nail it down with certainty, go ahead and get a hydrometer and a cylinder. And then I use a turkey baster to maneuver the liquid from here to here. It's at 1.089. If the yeast consume all the sugar that we have in here, we're going to get about a 13% ABV mead. And that's pretty cool. That's the exact range I shoot for. If you watch other channels and other shows, they might explain how to get even more alcohol out of your fermentation, out of your mead. That's fine. I think, you know, my priority in making these things and making wine and mead is not to get the most alcohol as possible. It's to get the best flavoring beverage, the best flavor profile. So roll with me. Even if you want more alcohol, just put that to the side for the moment, and I promise you, you won't be disappointed with this recipe. It's gonna be awesome. Step number, last one, pitch yeast, okay? Today, I'm gonna be using Lalvin 71B yeast. If this is the first time you've watched this channel, if this is the first time you've looked into making wine or mead, you can use bread yeast that you buy at the store, Fleischmann's Active Dry bread yeast. That's totally fine. That will make a fermentable drink. It will ferment. If you want to make the investment, though, it would be a good idea to get Lalvin 71B or a comparable wine yeast like, say, Red Star Premier Classic. You can also do that. They're going to give you the best product. Not by a lot, like I said, subtle differences, but you might as well make it as best you can. Now, just let me answer a very simple question. Why are we adding yeast? Because yeast is the catalyst that creates alcohol. Yeast eats sugar and produces alcohol and CO2 gas. And that's what will happen over the course of 3 weeks. All that sugar is going to get eaten up by our yeast. You're going to get a lot of CO2 as well. And at the end of all this, we're going to have mead, an alcoholic fermented honey-based drink. So I'm using half a packet. I used the other half for something else, so it's been taped. But you use half your packet and you put it in. And the very last thing is to get a bung and an airlock and put it in the opening. This fancy little doohickey here, this airlock, what it will allow to happen is that CO2 gas that's produced to get out without letting any bugs or bacteria or oxygen in. Once again, there's links for these things in the description. They're really straightforward and easy to use, and they're cheap. So now what's going to happen? Over the course of, I would guess, 3 or 4 weeks, meads usually take longer to ferment than wine. The yeast will replicate, eat the sugar, produce CO2, produce alcohol, and in a month, it'll be done. And then you can come right back here and I will show you what to do next. But all you need to worry about right now is to put this in a cool, dark environment, okay? Not in direct sunlight and not too hot. I put mine in my closet. That's all you gotta do. And if you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel to check out the other projects I have going on. So please do those things, and thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.